In the frostbitten village of Kvarnheim, Emmerich Voss tended the great clock tower, its heartbeat keeping the valley alive. Snow fell in lazy spirals as he wound the brass gears, unaware of the faint cry rising from the riverbank below. Following the sound, Emmerich found the swan thrashing, its wing pinned by frozen weeds. Its eyes were too human, pleading, furious. The moment he freed it, the swan's form rippled like disturbed water, shrinking and stretching until a pale-haired woman knelt shivering at his feet. "You've broken a binding," she whispered, clutching a single loose feather. "But the clock, your clock, will stop before the next full moon if I don't return." In his workshop, lamplight flickered over shelves of brass cogs and silver springs. Selka sat wrapped in an old coat, eyes darting to the ticking pendulum. She spoke of a bargain between her bloodline and the river spirit that guarded the valley's time, a bargain broken when she was stolen away. Emmerich wanted nothing of magic, but the thought of frozen crops and starved winters gnawed at him. He agreed to help her return, on one condition: no lies. Old Mara warned them, "The river doesn't let go what it claims, and it never forgets a debt." She pressed a pouch of heather into Selka's hand. They set out under a bleeding sunset, the frozen river ahead gleaming like glass. Selka's shadow still hinted at wings. A sudden crack echoed, ice splitting in jagged lines ahead. Beneath, something huge moved, its shadow blotting the river's silver glow. Selka gripped Emmerich's arm, whispering, "It knows we're here." The ice split like a clock spring snapping. The shadow swelled, an eye the size of a grindstone, watching. Selka tightened her grip on Emmerich's sleeve. His brass key thrummed in his pocket like a frightened bird. "We come to repay a bargain," Selka called, voice steady. The shadow blinked. The river sounded like 1,000 tiny bells. Emmerich drew the key and, without knowing why, hummed 3 notes that fit the water's rhythm. The ice fell away into a dark throat of water. They plunged, not sinking but sliding, as if the river turned inside out. The eye became a doorway, the doorway a spiral current. They burst into warm turquoise light, coughing on birdsong and damp earth. Above them, a round sky, a well of stars and sun, the mouth of a cenote. A jaguar's growl rolled from the rock. "Do not thrash," said a calm voice. A young woman crouched on the stone with a coil of rope and a jade pendant flashing. "I am Chel Balam. This is sacred ground. Speak truth or don't speak." Selka bowed, producing the silver feather and heather pouch. "We seek the under-river's path. Our clock is failing." Chel's gaze flicked to Emmerich's key, then to the feather, and softened a fraction. "The Alaksoab who guard this place are playful and jealous," Chel warned as pebbles skittered by unseen hands. "They want a toll, a song of timing, and a memory freely given." Emmerich swallowed. He had so many memories locked like drawers. He hummed the 3 river notes, then added a 4th, the one he'd never dared sing since his mother's winter passing. The cavern answered, gears in the melody, rain in the rests. Selka unclasped a ribbon from her hair, a memory of freedom, and set it afloat. The pool rose against gravity, a waterfall climbing. In its heart, a clay river box bobbed up, lacquered dark with a delicate crane and pine seal in red wax, foreign to this place yet welcomed. Chel's mouth quirked. The under-river is in a generous mood. Emmerich caught the box. The seal tingled like sunlight on frost. Chel pointed to a tunnel where wind smelled of ocean and lightning. That way leads onward, but the box chooses where you surface. The second chime cut through Kvarnheim's frozen air, warmer, salt-edged. The snow blurred to spray, and the 3 stood on black rocks beneath a white lighthouse, its beams sweeping over stormy water. "You've been called," said a voice above. Keeper Araceli Mora leaned over the railing, brass sextant in hand. "The sea clock's missing its noon hand. Ships have been circling for 100 years." Inside, the lighthouse spiral smelled of salt and machine oil. At the top, the sea clock gleamed, its brass face turning with the tide, but where noon should have been, there was only a jagged hole. Selka traced the edge of the gap. It was stolen? Mora shook her head. It fell down into the wreck of the San Olvido with a cargo of hours never delivered. Chell tied a dive line around her waist. I'll go. My lungs are longer than most. Emmerich handed her the silver feather. For luck, or for speaking to what waits. Underwater, light fractured through coral and glass bottles that ticked with trapped seconds. Fish darted past in slow-motion blurs. At the wreck's mouth, a shadow of a ship's bell swung without sound. The noon hand lay in the captain's cabin, coiled in seaweed like a sleeping serpent. As Chell reached for it, the water shuddered, and the bell above rang once, though no clapper moved. She grasped it, and in her mind's ear heard gulls, waves, and a single heartbeat. The current swept her back to the surface, toward the lighthouse beam. Mora fixed the hand into place. The sea clock chimed 12, and far out, a century-lost galleon shimmered before fading into foam. The under-river's current is turning, Mora said, handing Emmerich a small shell inscribed with a compass rose. You'll need this where you're going next, west, but not on any sea. The wind tightened into a single breath, then exhaled frost. Snow crunched under their boots. Before them, Kvarnheim stood still. No smoke from chimneys, no footprints. Above, the clock tower loomed, its face bare where the hands should be. This isn't my Kvarnheim, Emmerich said quietly. Selka touched the frozen river, shivering at the unnatural stillness. Chell scanned the rooftops, her pendant swinging toward the tower like a compass needle. A figure emerged from the tower's shadow, Emmerich, but younger, sharper-eyed, and holding an iron crowbar like a weapon. You shouldn't be here, he said. You took what belonged to me. What was stolen? Chell asked. Shadow Emmerich's gaze dropped to the brass key. Time that should have been mine. Selka stepped between them, the silver feather visible at her collar. The key pulsed, and behind the shadow, the tower's gears groaned. Through the open clock face, they glimpsed frost-thick machinery and a nest of white feathers tangled where the hands should be. To fix the clock, Selka said, we must take back the feathers. Shadow Emmerich's expression flickered, longing, then suspicion. Then prove you're not thieves. Chell stepped forward, holding the jade pendant. This binds me to protect threads, not cut them. Let me climb. The shadow hesitated, then stepped aside. Inside, the air was warmer. Feathers pulsed faintly, each beat matching the ticking that was missing outside. Emmerich reached for the nearest, and it turned into a small brass hand, warm as flesh. One hand for the hours, one for the minutes, Selka murmured. The feathers shifted, revealing the second hand curled like a sleeping bird. Chell gathered them both, their weight far greater than metal. Shadow Emmerich touched the restored hands, and his form blurred into snow. Return them, and the clock will remember you kindly. Outside, the tower's bell gave a single, echoing chime, and then a second from somewhere far away. The talisman's glow brightened until the cavern vanished. A rush of air, wet with salt and rain, seized them. When it cleared, they stood beneath a towering vermilion gate on a cliff's edge, waves smashing far below. We're not in your river anymore, Chell murmured. Selka's feather shimmered faintly in the damp air. From the fog stepped a figure in a fox mask, robes whispering like the tide. The crane sent you, the fox voice said, but storms will tear truth from liars. Write what you are, before the wind writes it for you. They followed the masked guardian up stone steps, slick with moss, past lines of paper cranes strung between gates. Each crane turned its head to watch them pass. The shrine stood open to the sky, its floor a polished expanse of black lacquered wood. Scrolls fluttered despite no breeze, ink marks shifting as though alive. Wren set 3 sheets of paper before them. One truth each. If you lie, the Kaminari will strike, and your truth will be lost to all worlds. Emmerich wrote, I fear I will fail my village. Selka wrote, I have dreamed of skies beyond the river. Chell hesitated, then wrote, "I am not ready to be guardian." Thunder cracked. The papers lifted and folded into cranes, circling their heads. One dipped to touch the brass key, another brushed the silver feather. The third perched on Chell's jade pendant, as if claiming it. Wren inclined their head. "The storm shrine accepts. Follow the wind path when the gate opens." Beyond the Torii, a spiraling gust shaped itself into a glowing corridor. As they stepped forward, Wren's voice followed. "The next shore holds what was stolen from you, but not in the shape you expect." The wind swallowed them, carrying the scent of frost and brass. The obsidian shard pulsed, and the desert starlight bled into smoke and iron tang. They stood on a blackened quay, red water lapping below, an immense foundry looming ahead. Master Torben Hale met them at the gate, the wheels spinning itself to pieces. Time's burning faster than I can count it. Sparks clung to his coat like tiny suns. Inside, the water wheel's paddles thudded, each beat drawing river water into the forge's belly. Selka flinched. Every splash stole a heartbeat from the air. Torben led them to the ledger. Names and dates faded midline, ink dripping as though melting. "The river's eating the past," Ayaz murmured. Emmerich crouched by the wheel's axle, feeling the pulse. Something's wedged in the paddles, keeping them from pausing. Chell nodded. "Then we pry it loose, even if it fights." They climbed onto the wheel, spray soaking them. Between two paddles, they found a clump of molten slag, and inside, a brass pocket watch still ticking. "The watch is feeding it," Selka said. She pressed the silver feather to the glass. The spin slowed, steam curling like wings. The wheel slowed to its proper rhythm. The forge roared once, then settled. Torben exhaled, and the red in the river darkened back to iron brown. Torben handed Emmerich the cooled watch. "Not mine. It came upriver the day the bells rang in the fog." Emmerich felt it, a third chime, waiting. Outside, the fog thickened until it swallowed the foundry lights. Somewhere in it, a bell tolled once, deep, deliberate. The fog around the forge thickened until the ground underfoot became wooden planks. Lanterns bobbed in the mist, and the smell of brine wrapped around them. A tall woman in a sea cloak appeared, silver bells chiming at her belt. "I am Mariel Vega. The wrong tide is rising, and your faces are already in it." A bell rang from somewhere unseen. A ship's prow slid into view, its nameplate dated 50 years ahead of their own time. Crew members waved as though they recognized the group. "One of my bells is missing," Mariel said. "Without it, futures drift in, and pasts can't leave." Her eyes flicked to Emmerich's pocket watch. That may be the key to calling it back. They followed her along the dock to a buoy wrapped in chains. Feathers floated in the water around it, though no birds were in sight. "The missing bell is with a tide wraith," Mariel explained. "It takes the shape of a memory you'd rather keep." Selka's breath caught, as if she already knew what she'd see. The fog parted to reveal a young boy with pale hair, holding the silver bell. A boy, Selka whispered, was her brother, lost to the river long ago. She stepped forward, feather trembling in her hand. "You're not him," she said softly. The boy smiled sadly, placing the bell in her palm before dissolving into mist. Mariel rehung the bell. The harbor shifted. Ships from wrong times faded, replaced by those meant to be there. The fog lifted just enough to see the moon. "One tide left to turn," Mariel said, pressing a small compass into Emmerich's hand. "It points not north, but to the moment you need most." The needle spun once, then locked, and the fog began to coil around them again. The compass needle spun once, then stopped, glowing gold. Fog rolled away to reveal a lantern-lit street lined with stalls, the air thick, with the scent of spices and ink. A merchant sold coins stamped with eclipses. Another poured tea into cups that replayed conversations. "All times touch here," Ayaz murmured. "All times for sale." At the pagoda steps stood the hour broker, bronze mask gleaming. "You've been mending what's fraying, but you've not asked who's pulling the threads." "We've come for answers," Emmerich said. The broker's ledger opened by itself, pages turning until they stopped on today's date, written before the sun had risen. "One answer for one item," the broker said. "I want the 13th feather." Selka's hand went to her collar. "That feather isn't mine to sell." "Then fetch me the clock without buyer," the broker said. "It's here, but in another stall. The stall moves every chime." Chell spotted a glint of brass under a red canopy. They pushed through the crowd, but the canopy folded itself into a paper crane and drifted away. Selka leapt, touching the paper crane. It unfolded to reveal a keyhole-shaped clock face, hands absent but ticking anyway. They returned to the broker, who took the clock and in return handed Emmerich a small scroll. "The next chime is the last before choice." As the scroll touched Emmerich's palm, all the lanterns went out. The compass needle spun wildly, then pointed straight up into a night sky where a 13th moon had risen.